Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is WatchArtSci, the art and science of watch collection. And today what we're going to talk about is corruption. Corruption in watch reviews. And this whole topic came up is based on an article in John Biggs' blog. It's called the Wristwatch Review. You may have seen it. John Biggs, by the way, is the guy who wrote the book Marie Antoinette's Watch. I had mentioned that in our French watches. It's about Auguste Breguet, and I recommend it. It's a good book. Anyhow, it's about watch Payola. And just in case you don't know what it is, let me tell you a little about Payola. Payola began back in the 1950s, I think, 1950s. And basically, what it was is that if somebody wanted their record played more often on the radio, they would go to the disc jockey and he would get a little money under the table or some other kind of favor. And so he would play their record more. Now, if you were back then, I guess in the 50s, people like Elvis and Little Richard, and then later on in the 60s, like the Beatles and so forth. What they did, they were so strong. They didn't have to pay anybody to be played. Okay, they were playing them anyway, so that they'd have a larger listener base. But other groups during that time, with popular disc jockeys, they would pay them to make sure that they had more airtime than they would get otherwise, if any at all. And this was especially difficult for new artists. Okay. So there's something called crowdfunding of watch companies. Now, when a new watch company pops up, and they do pop up every now and then, I usually don't know about them. None of us do until somebody tells us, say, hey, take a look at this watch company. It's sort of cool. They're doing this, they're doing that. This has happened with two watch companies. For me, at least. One was Harboring Two, it's a little watch company making these beautiful watches. But I learned through them, through the grand prizes that they had won. They had won the Grand Prix, and they had won 3 different awards. This was like, this was a little diamond in the rough for new companies. There was another new company, I don't know how new it is, but it's very small, called JS Watches in Iceland. And I found them, I'm not even sure how I did it, but I did. And it was so cool because they were in Iceland. No pun intended, being cool in Iceland. Anyhow, so these guys, what they do, I have no idea why. The JS Watch Company probably has more celebrities on their site than any other watch company. And it's not because they pay the celebrities. When I went to a watch show in New York, man, there were plenty of well-paid celebrities who will get up and say something about a watch. These were celebrities who love this little watch store. Now, there's a lot more I could say about JS Watches that are just, their website, if nothing else. If you haven't been there, do yourself a treat and go take a look at their watches. Now, I don't know if they really qualify as high horology, but it's certainly interesting horology, I'll put it that way. Okay, so, but most little watch companies, you just don't hear about. And so they're crowdfunded and they're trying to get attention. Well, what John Biggs found out in his article in the Watch Payola, he was saying, look, he said, this goes on all the time. He said that watch journalists, people who write about write about watches, they get to go free trips to Europe. They'll send them to Monaco or to Germany for a big watch show there, or to Baselworld in Switzerland. And so, but if they dump on a new watch, maybe they don't get invited back again, or maybe they don't get some of these other kinds of things. Okay. For the last, it's been 3 or 4 years now, Amazon has had something that they called Vine reviewers, and they send the Vine reviewers stuff to review, and the reviewers get to keep it. Okay, For some reason, I have no idea why, when they first started it up, they asked me, they said, hey, would you like to be a Vine reviewer? Now, at the time, I was thinking books. I love books. I read voraciously. And my big problem with books is that sometimes you get really busy. I couldn't fit in, but I had to send them back to the library. So the whole idea of getting free books that I could keep and reviewing them was, oh, hey, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Well, it turns out that they started sending us a lot more than that. I mean, we had some of the items that they had for sale on Amazon.com were worth thousands of dollars. So it's not hard. So I'm used to that, and I'm used to getting a bunch of stuff. But I got to tell you, I mean, if somebody, let's just give you an example. Let's say Patek Philippe said, hey, tell you what, we understand you used to be a pilot, and we got a pilot's watch that for some reason Patek buyers are unhappy about. Okay? All right, so let's see, the watch is called the Patek Philippe Calatrava Pilot Travel Time. Okay? And those things sell for around $60,000. Okay, now somebody says to me, hey, I tell you what, now you got to write a good review of this $60,000 watch and we'll send it to you and you get to keep it. Would I write a favorable review? Quicker than a Chinese bureaucrat would write a contract for a watch payoff. This is why China has had the crackdown on watches. They were using watches to pay off people to get favorable government contracts. For a $60,000 watch, Patek Philippe, are you kidding me? I'm a watch collector. I couldn't afford anything like that. And someone says, hey, we'll give you one just to write a good review. The answer would be, send it right away. Every now and then I've heard the phrase, to be honest with you. Don't ever believe that. When someone says, I'm going to be honest with you, they're probably lying. I mean, if if they have to say that, does that mean the rest of the time they haven't been honest, but now they're going to be honest with you? It's crazy. I'm just telling you what I would do with a Patek Philippe. Now, on the other hand, and this is what I found out in doing the Amazon reviews, is that I try only to pick things to review that I think I'm going to like. I don't want a bunch of stuff that I have no use for. And I don't think I do a very good review of it. If it was something that I didn't like, take for example, this is my Elora watch. And if they offered to send this to me, and they said, would you like to review that? The answer, I would, yes, definitely. I would say, hey, I'd like to review that. It doesn't, in this case, or in my case, it doesn't guarantee a good review. But since I'm choosing what I'm reviewing, it is probably a better chance of a good review. Now, I've had enough stuff that I've reviewed that I really didn't like. And if I don't like something, I have to be very specific about it. It is much harder to write a favorable review than a negative one. And the same thing about talking about watches or anything else. Okay, having said that, to me, the problem with what I'll call watch payola is the same thing, the term that they use. Two things. One, the thing that Biggs was talking about is that if these little Kickstarter watch companies have to pay a lot of money to get noticed in this access journalism, we're not going to have very many new companies. And that's a good point. My point is something very different than that. I'm a collector. I think I've mentioned that 4 or 5 times. And I'm a collector, and I want to find out about the value of a watch. Now, if I'm reading something, and I know that the person who wrote it is an objective reviewer, or if I think they're an objective reviewer, I'll listen to them. Of course, I wouldn't listen to somebody who's been paid to write a good review any more than I listen to an advertisement. That might be sort of interesting, but I'm not going to say, hey, yeah, all right, I'm convinced I'm going to go out and buy something. All right. So the dilemma, I guess, is for us as watch collectors is to become informed by other means. One of the things I hope to do on this channel, and it's called WatchArtSci for a reason. In the definition of high horology, they talk about it as the art and science of horology, of watchmaking. And so that was where I got the name from. And to me, the essence of that is doing good research, finding out all about a watch. Now, there's certain things that you can look at the face of a watch. You can fall in love with a watch just taking a look at it. This is an example of that. I just fell in love with this watch. And it's like, it's a great piece of jewelry, but it's probably not high horology except in the jewelry category. So one of the things I think that I'm going to strive to do is first of all, I don't want to, sort of rat some publication out. If you want to take a look, by the way, too, if you want to see that article by John Biggs, he names names. The name of it is July 5th in the Wristwatch Review, and it's called The Problems with Watch Payola. And he has an example of one of the review journalists that do that. Okay, if you see me with a Patek Philippe Calatrava Pilot Travel watch sitting here telling you about good things, don't take it seriously. I've been bought and paid for. You hear that, Patek? Anyway, the point is that the most important person in convincing you to buy a watch is you. It really is. You know what you like better than anybody else. You know what your budget is. And you should learn about movements. You should learn about these companies. Spend some time doing that. And there's stuff all over the web. But the minefields are where you have this pay for play, so to speak, kind of watch journalism. Let's hope we don't have it. And by the way, too, this is a thing. As the number of hits on my site have been growing, I try to answer every single comment with something. And as it started to grow, it's becoming more difficult. So I just said, instead of saying, hey, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, I'm not going to say that this time. I like keeping it to a smaller group that at least we can have some kind of communication. Okay, every Friday I plan to be here with a video. And until next Friday, this is Bill Sanders, and this has been WatchArtSci. See you next time.